In 1968, there was a letter that got written to the New England Journal of Medicine that basically asked a question: why, after having a Chinese meal, do I get a bad headache? Why do I feel like my chest is pounding and I feel sort of, flushed and unwell? And there are lots of different reasons why that could happen, but the speculation at the time was that it was because of MSG. Now, in the late 60s in the US, Chinese food was still something of a novelty. And a lot of people, thought it was pretty exotic. It wasn't the kind of thing that you had as takeaway food, really. And people were drinking large amounts of wonton soup before they started their meal. And the idea was that maybe by having that on an empty stomach, the amount of MSG in it was actually causing a reaction. The problem was there wasn't really a lot of science to back it up. And MSG occurs naturally in many foods. So glutamates happen in things like Parmigiano Reggiano, so like aged Parmesan cheese. You get it in tomato paste. You get it in mushrooms. So for example, if you're having a large mushroom pizza, there's probably a lot of natural MSG in there. And MSG was originally made out of seaweed as a seaweed extract. And then they discovered that it actually gave a really deep, savory flavor to things, what we now call umami, or the fifth taste. So we had, salty, sweet, bitter, sour, but now we have umami, this depth of flavor. So the question becomes, why MSG in Chinese food? Well, really, it was the only place where people were encountering it where they knew that it was MSG and they thought that there was a problem. Soon afterwards, though, it started to be marketed to the wider public, but not as MSG. They called it accent or flavor enhancer. And so when it was used in those other ways, people never really stopped and said, hey, I think MSG is bad for me. They only thought about it when it was related to Chinese food, which really speaks, I think, more to the fact that people were distrustful of an Asian cuisine rather than being distrustful of the ingredient. So this continues even today. People still say, oh, I get a really bad MSG reaction. It's not that that's impossible. It's just that there isn't really a lot of science to back it up. And as one food writer noted, if it were true, why aren't there like 500 million people in China having headaches every night? So MSG, is it safe? Yes, it is safe. Could you have a reaction? Possibly, but it's not likely. More likely, when people have what they call Chinese restaurant syndrome, it's more likely that they're just a little bit wary of eating Chinese food. Could be a little bit of xenophobia, but it's not necessarily the MSG that's causing the problem.